Ancient Origins really did shake things up. It'll probably be remembered for introducing Force of Giant Plants and bringing about this shiftry deck. And if you want my opinion on it, they banned the wrong card. Shiftry is just one outlet. Eventually they're going to print something that evolves from a grass type Pokemon, and it's going to be broken with Forest of Giant Plants again. Although it probably won't be as bad as long as it's not another Giant Fan ability. So I guess if they decide not to print any more Giant Fan type Pokemon, then banning Shiftry probably is the right move. Still, it's usually better to go after the enabler. Anyways, there's a deck list in the description of about what I would run, but as you can see, it's pretty basic. The big thing though is how the Shiftry deck affects the rest of the metagame, because you can still play all your other decks as long as you play this ball toy. So the thing about this ball toy is it prevents all the effects of their opponent's abilities, meaning they can't Giant Fan it. So as long as you have it in the active, then they can't use their Seeker to put it back in your hand, and they can't Giant Fan it, so they have no way to get it off your bench. So the following is completely unedited, and I haven't even listened to most of it, so I don't know if it's any good. I know the audio quality sucks, and the visuals aren't going to match up. But I need to move forward with my life, and I told someone I would make this video, and I feel like if I don't post anything, kind of lying. But if anyone wants to re-record this by, recording themselves talking, saying pretty much the same things that I'm saying, and they can pronounce it clearly with a good mic, and they want to like sync up relevant visuals, I'll give you $120. But for those of you still paying attention, here is probably the final Unlimited video. I could tell Unlimited was getting faster and faster, as any game would with a ever-expanding card pool. But as soon as Roaring Skies came out with Shaman, that really accelerated things. And then the very next set, Ancient Origins, with Force of Giant Plants finally just breaking the format, making it so Shiftry can win on turn 1. I could really tell Unlimited was getting faster and faster. Sort of expected with any game where the card pool is ever expanding. But as soon as Shaman came out in Roaring Skies, and then the very next set we had Force of Giant Plants breaking the format completely, allowing Shiftry to win on turn 1. This Shiftry deck is definitely the most powerful deck PTCGO has ever seen. The online version of this game has ever hosted, because it wins without attacking, and it can do it on the first turn. So it ignores pretty much every standard thing, like people playing, Pyroar or Safeguard Pokemon for anti-EX. That literally doesn't matter, because Shiftry just scoop them up. It's interesting that they banned Shiftry and not Force of Giant Plants, because Force of Giant Plants is the enabler here, but it makes sense that they would do it this way. Just in terms of gameplay, because Force of Giant Plants is a fun card and you want to allow people to use it. But if you're watching this video in 2017 or 2020, go do a search right now, start looking at Pokemon that evolve from grass Pokemon, because there's bound to be another way to break this card now. Just start brewing decks. I hate to say it, but this definitely signals that Unlimited's growth as a format, its playability, will forever be stunted. But that doesn't mean it can't still be a fun deck building challenge, and a very complicated, interesting one at that. Though likely everyone knows exactly what shiftry is, for posterity I'm going to describe how the deck works, so you can skip ahead by clicking here if you know how it works. You use the trainer card. The shiftry deck works in two stages. First you look for the shiftry. First you assemble the jungle gym, then each evolution step of shiftry. But then, after that, you try to pick up as many shiftries as you can with the evolution spray. So first, you're using Acro Bike and Trainer's Mail to find Ultra Balls and Junk Arms, so that you can search for Shamans or get back Bicycles, while also discarding the cards like De-Evolution Spray that you can't use right away, to help you go through your entire deck. So you finally set up the first shiftry, and then you just start picking it up with Super Scoop Up or Scoop Up Cyclone or DL Evolution Spray until you flip enough heads to pick up their entire team. And if you run out of cards, just Lysander all of them back and keep going. Just keep flipping coins. Honestly, I've seen someone do at least 12 flips and beat a full bench of Pokemon. I even had Skyfield out, so I had all 8, but of course they played their stadium and dropped it down to, only 6 Pokemon total, but still, they got them all. Even in the same set, though, they did give us an avenue to fight back with. I'm, of course, referring to the Ancient Trait Stop Pokemon. Since they can't be affected by abilities, they can't be affected by Shiftry's Scoop Up. A single stop Pokemon in the active position can't be beat by the Shiftry deck unless the Shiftry deck runs an attacker. I specify that it has to be the only Pokemon in the field because let's say you have your stop Pokemon like Baltoy in the active position, and they just and you also have your attacker, whoever you're going to attack them with, as backup. What they can do is they can use Escape Rope to switch your Pokemon, then they can use Seeker to pick up your Baltoy, and then use Shiftry to pick up your attacker Pokemon, and game over. Most Shiftry players will concede as soon as you play a stop Pokemon. But really, they shouldn't, because if you only have a stop Pokemon as your active, how are you ever going to beat them? Because if they can outdraw you before they play the last Lysander's trump card, they'll win the game because they'll play more cards from their hand into the discard pile, thus putting more cards back in their deck, thus giving them more turns to draw more cards. Meaning, if you don't play out your cards, and you have a bunch of cards stuck in your hand when they play Lysander's trump card, the cards that are stuck in your hand won't go back into your deck, and then you won't be able to redraw them, and so you'll run out of cards before they do. As long as you have one VS Seeker, one Lysander's trump card, the point is kind of mute. But you should probably play, the correct energies to attack with your stop Pokemon, just to put a clock on them, because they may and they should run at least one attacker in their deck. Just hopefully you can beat them before they find it. That said, if you have enough stop Pokemon, they can't really beat you, because what you do is you play 3 stop Pokemon. So let's say they have an attacker, they can knock out one of them. They have a Seeker, so they can put one back in your hand. There's nothing they can do with the third one until your next turn, at which point you can just replay the one that you had they secret out and hopefully find another one or stop them from attacking again. The other option is to play Wobbuffet to shut down Shiftry's ability. The added benefit is that it'll also shut down Shaman EX's ability, which will really hamper their ability to draw cards and thus find any other ways they might have to beat you. Because let's say they want to play a Hex Maniac to shut down Wobbuffet. Well, they're going to have a hard time finding that Hex Maniac in their deck. They may still be able to do it with enough Trainer's Mail, but it's not going to be easy without Shaman. Any cards they add to try and beat you, like Seeker, Escape Rope, or let's say an Attacker plus Energy, are taking away from Shiftry's ability to beat you on the first turn consistently. It's basically making their deck a little more inconsistent. And every extra card they do to make their secondary plans more consistent, takes away from that. On the other hand, maybe there's some metagaming involved, because who doesn't concede against the Shiftry deck, You know what's coming. You don't need to sit there and let them play it out. So maybe as the Shiftry deck, you expect that the only games you're going to play out are the games that they're going to be teched against you, so you bring in the anti-tech. Before we talk about that though, let's talk about the stop Pokemon, because you can just jam stop Pokemon in your deck and it will help you against the Shiftry decks. You probably win the coin flip, go first, Ultra Ball for your stop Pokemon, and they concede. But this still leaves you losing a lot of games to Shiftry when Shiftry gets to go first. So if you want to beat Shiftry when Shiftry goes first, you basically have to play either quad stop Pokemon, or, basically strictly only stop Pokemon, or maybe you play 8 or 9 stop Pokemon and then you can include one non-stop Pokemon. But really, you might even want to just max it out at 12 at that point, just to really up your odds, and hopefully that one non-stop Pokemon is really worth its while. You might be able to go up to, like, all 12 stop Pokemon plus 4 Wobbuffet to bring you up to 16, and at that point you could probably play multiple of the secondary Pokemon, just assuming the your leaders will be in your hand. But boy, does that give us some deck restrictions. So basically, not only does that cut out pretty much all attackers and most plans of how to accelerate energy, but it also makes it so we can't use Jirachi, which is so hard to do, because Jirachi is so good when he can find those great supporters for setup. Our options really come down to Archie's Ace in the Hole, Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick, Fossil Pokemon, and Legend Pokemon. The real problem is, how do we accelerate the energy onto these Pokemon, and are they going to be good enough attackers? And how do we even get them started and out there? So this is a bad deck, and it was miserable to try to play. But I do want to show it to you to give you the idea of where we could be going with this. So basically, the overarching thing is that we're going to be getting some water Pokemon into play with Archie's Ace in the Hole, which allows us to do Primal Kyogre, which is good because Primal Kyogre has the growth trait, which will allow us in 2 turns to pump out a 4 energy attack. The real problem is how you deal with the move 2 energy from this Pokemon to a bench Pokemon, and I feel like I didn't handle that very well. But I basically did it by moving them to the Auroras and allowing the Auroras to attack. But there's got to be another way to do it, like set up a second Kyogre on the bench or something. But anyways, you don't need to jam them both in the same deck, but you can, so I did. So I put the fossil researcher in here as well. So now we've got both fossils and Archie's ace in the hole. Archie can also bring back Auroras, which helps. And then we get this like sub-theme where we've got this giant whale with 240 HP. We've got Ice Shield to prevent some damage. And at that point we definitely want to heal damage, so I figured Rough Seas is probably the best way. Maybe want to play a few more of those. Maybe want to play like a Gold Potion or something just to really heal off the damage. We definitely need a better way to draw energy and accelerate them. The one extra tech that I want to talk about is Random Receiver. Because, we don't have Jirachi EX to search for Archie's ace in the hole, Random Receiver will just keep on flipping cards in your deck until you flip over a supporter. So your odds of drawing that supporter, whatever the percentage of them are in your deck. So it's really nice for finding Archie's ace in the hole. This deck, on the other hand, is actually playable, and I don't think my list is right, but I definitely recommend someone go out there and try and tune this and make a much better version of it. So I will show you some of my tech. So it's based around Lugia Legend. The fact that Lugia Legend can deal 200 damage with its attack, and it can power itself out with Ocean Grove, basically flipping over the top 5 cards. Anything that's energy gets attached to it. So you want a good portion of your deck to be energy to use this. But it also, so basically you can take two prize cards by knocking out EXs, but Lugia Legend is a single Pokemon legend, which means it doesn't give out 2 prize cards. So it only gives out 1 prize card when it gets knocked out, which makes it very good. I had originally included Primal Coyote, or not Primal. I had originally included Kyogre Groudon Legend, because it is actually like the other legend that can actually deal enough damage. Its ability also discards cards off the top of your deck, 5 cards off the top of your deck looking for energy, and for every energy you discard off the top, you get to deal 100 damage, so you can easily deal 200, 300 damage with it. So I had this sub-theme where you play a bunch of energy and you discard them off the top with Lugia and Kyogre Groudon Legend. And it works well with Legend Box because you're already playing a bunch of energy, so Legend Box will be able to power them up as well. But Kyogre Groudon Legend, the fact that it doesn't have Ocean Grow like Lugia does to power itself out meant it just didn't work, because Legend Box itself is not very good, just doesn't work. The good thing though was that you could use Research Record with both of them and kind of set up the top of your deck to, really help filter out stuff. And with Research Record, it works well with cards that just draw instead of shuffle your hand and then draw. So it works well with Engineer's Adjustments and Getsis and Caitlyn and Charon and Tierno, that type of thing. The other cool thing was that they both are water Pokemon. Kyogre Groudon Legend is fighting water, which is actually dual type, which was one of the really cool parts of the multi-Pokemon Legend cards. But anyways, you can search both Kyogre Groudon and Lugia Legend out with Dive Ball, which really helps, because the hardest part about the Legends is finding them in your deck. So when you have a card like Dive Ball that just says search for them, Dive Ball is just an insane card. Like, it makes water types so good. Anyways, the other really cool thing that's come out recently is Splash Energy. Splash Energy works amazingly with Lugia Legend. Now, only if Lugia Legend ever happens to get knocked out, but still, if you don't discard the splash energy to Lugia Legend and they knock it out, you basically get both parts back to your hand, then you get to replay it and Ocean grows itself. Like, picking up Lugia and replaying it was what you already wanted to do, and you're really fine with them taking the prize card because the likelihood is that you're going to get to take more on the swing back. Going along with that theme of taking it back, I'm playing Scoop Up Cyclone. I also think Super Rod is probably your best bet for putting Lugia Legend back in your deck, because I know like some cards can put like 5 Pokemon in your deck, but you really only ever want to put 2 or 3, maybe up to 4 if all your Lugia Legend pieces are in your discard back in your deck. But Super Rod allows you to put energy back as well, which you'll definitely end up needing after you start discarding your deck with Lugia. Just a few other things to note. For the stadium, I'm playing Indigo Plateau to give Lugia extra 30 HP. Not super great, but it's something. Then Silver Bangle, I figure why not, because it can help you knock out most Mega Evolutions. Plus, it's kind of cool that Lugia is not an EX. You gotta play Floatstone because you're gonna be constantly trying to pick up Lugia Legend with Scoop Up Cyclone, and then you gotta retreat this Wobbuffet somehow, and that 2 retreat cost is just too high. So the Electric Water Blend energy counts for both on Lugia, and Lugia can pick it up, which is great. But then the Psychic Fire one counts for Fire for Lugia, but it also counts for Psychic for Wobbuffet, which allows you to attack with it, which is, a good option to have, especially since you can add the Silver Bangle to it, and then at that point, with 2 attacks, you're doing, a good 120 damage on an EX, but still takes way too many attacks. So basically what you should really do is play a teched out shiftry deck. Now it's pretty hard to beat the mirror because, let's face it, there's no real point to playing stop Pokemon, just 1 or 2, because your likelihood of drawing them in your opening hand is low, but they will provide stumbling blocks if you accidentally run into them in your deck. On the other hand, it could be worth the small percentage you gain. But going back, if you're going first and you can go search for your stop Pokemon, you should really just be focused on winning the game, because Shiftry can win on turn 1. Alright, so to increase your win percentage as the Shiftry player, you need to focus on winning the matches where you go second and the opponent gets to search out their stop Pokemon. So the first most popular Pokemon to play is probably Mewtwo EX with a double colorless energy, because it preys on the fact that right now Stop Celebi and Stop Sableye are so expensive that basically no one has them, so the only thing they could play is Stop Baltoy. What's better than that, though, is Landorus EX plus Strong Energy, because the Landorus EX will still Oko a Baltoy, but also get the party started on the next Baltoy. You might say that Mewtwo EX is better than Landorus because it's super effective against Wobbuffet as well, but here's the thing, Wobbuffet's super effective against Mewtwo EX. So let's say you're starting with your Mewtwo EX, but you haven't found your DCE. Well, this gives your opponent a chance to attack your Mewtwo EX, and if your opponent has Wobbuffet with, say, a Silver Bangle, that's going to 2-shot your Mewtwo EX. So basically, it only gives you like 3 turns to find the DC, which is actually a lot of turns considering how many trainer cards you have to draw. But without your Shamans, the deck really will struggle to draw. The next card also preys on a weakness. It's Victini EX plus Victory Piece. Basically, you get to knock out Celebi Stop, which is arguably the best stop Pokemon because of its ability, which allows it, to prevent taking prize cards. But not that we even care about taking prize cards as a shiftry deck. Just it gives it some utility in other matchups as well, so that's why people might play it. Although maybe we should just be building a deck around using Sableye to set up, because Sableye not having a weakness does make it pretty good. The drawback of using up your ace spec might be too much though, because being able to junk arm back, scoop up Cyclone, and just replay it as many times as you need is a pretty big deal in this deck. I dread even saying this, but probably the best is Seismitoad EX plus DCE. If you play Seismitoad and you keep them off their trainers, like, what are they going to do? How are they going to advance their game enough to stop you? So basically, you pummel through whatever stop Pokemon they have, and you still get to set up all your shiftries on your side, keeping them from advancing their board at all. I guess the final thought that I want to put out there is we do run a very fine line by jamming more cards into the shiftry deck, but on the other hand, as long as your cards aren't prized, you can reasonably expect to draw through your entire deck and find them.
right now, which gives us approximately a minute to talk about his map. Now, he's got a much better map. He's got a much better gold at the back. He's got an easy wall off on this right side if he wants to take it, keeping this entire section very safe. And, well, he's got a forward wood, which is not so nice, but again, fairly easy to protect given this cliff here. Viper, though, typically doesn't tend to wall up all that much, and we're going to switch back to Vinchester now as this drush comes in, and I accidentally spy, my bad. So we can see exactly what Vinchester sees as he brings this drush in, and kind of